Okay, so it's time to do that last quadratic equation problem, which we already started and almost finished, but you got to see the whole thing from beginning to end clearly. So we're just going to repeat, it doesn't hurt. So the title over upstairs here is Quadratic Equations, equations, sorry, and this is C. This is the third one. Okay, so what was the problem? Let's just call it problem number one. What was the problem? The problem was x squared minus 6x minus 3 equals 0. You can check that out. You'll see factoring is not really a way to go. So what we did, it's when factoring can't work for you, make your life easier, we got to go the little bit harder way, which is to use the quadratic formula. As I keep repeating, and I'm very repetitive, but we need to be, and that is that you've got to memorize the quadratic formula. So it's minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, you've heard this from me before, but it's important to keep repeating it, over 2a. Okay, what does that require? This is on your paper, or something like this, or maybe the 3 is over here, and you got to do minus 3 on both sides. You got to make it equal 0. Don't forget, quadratic equations got to have an equal 0 to get it to work. The quadratic formula, I meant, the quadratic formula has to have equal 0 in the equation for it to work. And then we can get our a and our b and our c. A equals 1, b equals negative 6, and c negative 6, and c is equal to negative 3. As soon as we get that, as soon as we've extracted our a, b's, and c's, then we go to the quadratic formula and fill it in. B is negative 6, so you do minus, don't forget that minus, doesn't go away, minus 6 plus or minus the square root of minus 6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1 in our case, and c, which is negative 3 in our case, over, all of that over 2 times 1, 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, now we clean up. That's basically most of the job here, is to clean this thing up. All right, minus 6 is 6. Plus or minus, built in the formula, are both solutions if there are two solutions, the plus solution and the minus solution. Okay, let's clean this up. Minus 6 squared is 36. Minus 4 times 1 is minus 4. Minus 4 times the minus 3 is positive 12. All of that over 2. Okay, x equals 6 plus or minus square root of 48 over 2. Okay, now we've hit a standstill because we got to clean up that square root of 48. We have to use the techniques we've learned in the past of how to simplify a radical. And what we do is we're looking for, remember the list, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81. Remember the list. What are the two numbers that we can, what's the highest number that's a factor of 48 that we can use which will be a perfect square? What's the highest number that we can get that's a factor of 48? So I know that 4 goes into 48, but I can do better. 16 is a perfect square. It's on the list. 4, 9, 16, 25, and 16 times 3 is 48. It's much better if we just go do this thing faster and get right to the biggest number that we can. This turns into 4 square root of 3. Okay, so now we have x equals 6 plus or minus 4 square root of 3 over 2. You would think that we're done, but we're not, because the 2 goes into 6 and the 2 goes into 4 evenly. So we have to continue. Let me move the paper up. We've got a little bit more room. So now, get that 2, divide the 6 by 2 and divide that 4 by 2. X equals 3 plus or minus, 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2, 4, 2, 2 goes into 4 twice, square root of 3, and the 2 disappears. That's it. 2 went into the 6, went into the 4, and now we have our two solutions. This problem is over. The solutions are, to the quadratic equation, are x equals 3 plus the plus 2 square root of 3, 3 plus 2 square root of 3, and 3 minus 2 square root of 3. The real best thing to do is really to go check them out, plug them back into the original equation and see if it works, but we don't need to do that right now. So 3 plus 2 square root of 3 and 3 minus 2 square root of 3. Those are our two solutions. So either on your answer sheet it could look like this, very often it'll look like this. They don't need to waste any space, and they just might as well write plus minus. Everybody knows that plus and minus means there's two solutions. There's two things going on here. Or if you want to write the whole thing out, or the answer sheet wants you to write the whole thing out, that is how to write the entire thing out. Okay, that is the story with quadratic equations and the quadratic formula. We move on to stuff that's still solving equations, and it's going to use some of the stuff that we were using before. When it equals 0 and that T formation that I talked about in the past, we need to do that. So what have we just completed? We have finished quadratic equations, which is 1.4, and we don't worry about 1.5. We move on to, it's not on the syllabus, 1.6 is where we go to next, more about equations. Okay, so let me show you what that means, what we have to do. Okay, we get a clean piece of paper, and the title is really, we're starting something, well, it's just more equations. That's pretty much the title, more equations. Okay, and there's going to be some similar stuff that we talked about in the past that's going to show up over here. Now, before we start, let's practice some factoring. I don't want to practice all the factoring. There's a lot to factoring, but let's practice in something pretty simple that we learned in factoring. When you have the following, practice factoring two situations. Excuse me. X squared minus 81. I'd like to practice first. And B, 4x squared minus 81. Okay, it's just practice something. We've already done this. We're practicing factoring. Notice, perfect square, it's on the list. 81's on the list. And there's a minus in between. It's got the three symptoms. This is also perfect square. 4 is a perfect square. So is x squared. 81 is a perfect square and a minus in between. What did we say you had to do? Take the square root of x squared, x. Take the square root of 81, which is 9. One parentheses with a plus 9. And one parentheses with a minus in between. One with a plus in between, one with a minus. How do you do this one? So that's it. The factoring is over. We're practicing for a reason, though. Let me show you the answer to save a little space here, so I'll put the answer on this side. The square root of 4x squared is, square root of 4 is 2. Square root of x squared is x. The square root of 81 is 9. Put 1 with a plus in between. And then put 1 with a minus in between. And that's it. We have practiced some factoring here. Okay, now let me show you what we have to do next, what we're up against next. We have to solve the polynomial equation. Polynomial, many terms. Polynomial, it's not even going to be a trinomial. There's going to be 4 terms in this thing. Solve the polynomial equation is where we need to go next. Okay, here's the problem. 4x squared plus, 4x cubed I meant to say. Sorry about that. 4x cubed plus 12x squared minus 9x minus 27 equals 0. So we got that equals 0. It's going to play a role similar to before, where we go into the T formation, we set up everything equal to 0. But first we got to do something with all of this. Okay, there's something that we can do as follows. We can split this down the middle and factor by grouping. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. Remember when we had 4 terms and we factored by grouping? Let's see what happens here. So if you, we need the GCF coming out of these, now we turned into two binomials. There's a firewall now. Binomial on the left, binomial on the right. Let's take care of this binomial. Let's get its GCF. 4 goes into 4, 4 goes into 12, so the 4 will come out. And the smaller of the two, x3 and x2, is x2. Bring out the x2. How much is 4x cubed divided by 4x squared? The 4 cancels. 4's cancel. X cubed over x squared is x. How much is 12x squared divided by 4x squared? X squared and x squared cancel. 12 divided by 4 is positive 3. Now, if this factor by grouping is going to work, then this is going to have to be an x plus 3. And we're going to have to somehow get this and this to match with a magic number here. All right. Take a look at x plus 3. Take a look at minus 9x minus 27. What number do you think we can multiply this by to get up to minus 9x minus 27? You can see it pretty clearly. Minus 9 is going to do it. Minus 9 times x, minus 9x. Minus 9 times positive 3, minus 27. It worked. We have a match, and we have factor by grouping has worked out for us. So give 4x squared to the two outsiders, their own parentheses, and give x plus 3 one copy. And this thing is factored, and what has this been all the time? Equal to 0. Now let's use that principle that we talked about before. Before we use it, we're going to use it soon. We're going to set up this equals 0 and this in equals 0. And we're going to be able to find out what x is when they're all equal 0, just like we did about 2 videos ago. But is this factorable? Yes. Notice, perfect square, minus in between. We can factor this. So this becomes square root of 4 is 2, square root of x squared is x, square root of 9 is 3. Give 1 with a plus and 1 with a minus. And this x plus 3 is not going anywhere. Equals 0. Let me pull up the page. I need to pull up the page. I still have enough room, I believe. Yes, I do. I forgot one little small thing, but I've got to make sure I need the end of parentheses here. And now go into the T formation, but it's more than a T, it's 2 T's. We have 3 things to work with. We have to set up 2x plus 3 equals 0. Find that, we'll have one solution to this, one possible solution to this polynomial equation. We have to set up 2x minus 3 equals 0, the second solution. And the third solution, x plus 3 is equal to 0. That equals 0 tells us that we can set all of these 3 up to 0. Do minus 3 on both sides, and we get 2x equals minus 3. And what if I divide by 2 on both sides? If I divide by 2 on both sides, I get x equals negative 3 halves. I'm sorry. Let me put the final stuff over here. X is equal to minus 3 halves. That's the first one. Do plus 3 on both sides. You get 2x equals 3. Divide by 2 on both sides, and you get x equals positive 3 halves. Do on this one, minus 3 on left, minus 3 on right, you get x equals negative 3. And you have our 3 solutions, x equals negative 3. So we have negative 3, 3 halves, and negative 3 halves are the 3 solutions of the original equation. If to go back and check it will take a while, you have to put that inside and see if it comes out to 0. Put negative 3 halves, replace x with negative 3 halves, replace x with 3 halves, and check to see that works, and negative 3. They happen to all work, and here are all the solutions to this polynomial equation. So there's more stuff about equations in the next video.